Addiction research has focused on the neural circuitry in the brain's reward pathway, the network of neurons where our desires arise. Flowing along this network, continuously stimulating our pleasures and appetites, are the neurotransmitters that one neuron uses to talk to another. Addictive drugs work by altering the level of these neurotransmitters and slyly capturing the reward pathway.
All addictive drugs are Trojan horses. Every single one of the chemicals that are addictive are mimics. That is, they look like a neurotransmitter. They look like one of the chemicals that the brain uses for nerve cells to communicate with one another.
Many addictive drugs mimic one of the most powerful neurotransmitters in the reward pathway, dopamine. In the normal brain, dopamine travels across the synapse, stimulates receptors on the target neuron, and then it is quickly reabsorbed by tiny molecular vacuum cleaners called dopamine transporters. But when cocaine is abused, trillions of cocaine molecules surge into the synapses, clogging the vacuum cleaners, artificially boosting the level of dopamine in the brain, producing a cocaine high.
Let's imagine a wonderful natural reward. You know, I go to a restaurant and have the best ice cream sundae I've ever had. You know, I'd have a certain amount of dopamine probably being released in my brain. But cocaine, which gets there chemically, gives your brain, gives these synapses more dopamine for a longer amount of time than it has ever experienced before.
Now, with the experience of your first drug high, particularly when it's cocaine and heroin, watch what happens. The dopamine levels ascend above and beyond those experienced with orgasm, above and beyond the greatest physiologic experience we can have as men and women.
I got so high, and I literally thought I was floating. I was just, going through, bumping into people and making jokes and laughing, and tears were rolling down my face. I was laughing so hard. And
after doing like 3 or 4, I just kind of sit back and light a cigarette, and it would just like fill me like completely, and like it was like taking me away from the world.
Once the drugs and the alcohol are introduced into the addicted brain, the natural system is what we call down-regulated. It means that the things that are supposed to work for exercise and food and all the things that are supposed to make us feel good, they basically go into hibernation.
You have a feeling of hopelessness, such that the only thing you can possibly do to have any semblance of pleasure in your life is to re-administer the drug.
The first high can be exhilarating, but after repeated drug abuse, a dark side to addiction begins to take its toll. The brain responds to the repeated use of cocaine and the dopamine surging in the synapse by fighting back, cutting away receptors on the neuron that are the dopamine's target. Without the receptors, dopamine can't stimulate the neuron, and the drug high is reduced. But so is enjoyment of all normal pleasures as well.
It tricks my brain, It made me think that, that I was happy, that I enjoyed my life, when in fact I really didn't. When I wasn't high, I hated my life.
I remember writing diary entries like I was in pain, but I still want to do more, and I can't stop. And I just wanted to die all the time. I didn't even want to live anymore.
None of these kids sat down and said, hey, I want to be a drug addict. Actually, what happened is, like lots of other adolescents, they played what turned out for them to be a game of Russian roulette. There was something about their genes, something about their temperament, that made them vulnerable, so that when other kids got away, often scot-free, they got hooked. There was something different about their brains.